Welcome to Conversations with Craig, presented by Matinee Heroes.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Conversation with Craig. This is the podcast where we dive into entertainment, pop culture, and the incredible people behind the stories we love. I'm your host, Craig Price, and I'm glad you're here. Before we get started, a quick shout out to Matinee Heroes, the podcast that celebrates heroic cinema, classic films, and the impact they have on all of us. If you love movies and great conversations, check out Matinee Heroes wherever you get your podcasts. Well, with the new year, I wanted to share something a little aspirational and set a goal for myself too. Today's guest is someone I actually didn't get to meet properly until we were already on stage. This panel was recorded at FanX Salt Lake in 2021, right near the end of the pandemic. So we were spaced out like we were in different zip codes. We have quite a distance between us. I didn't get to meet him backstage. Everything I learned from him, I learned as we walked on stage. You'll hear me even ask at the start, what should I call him? Chris is very thoughtful, grounded, and seriously talented. A lot of people know him from Doctor Who, and we also touch on why that experience made him hesitant to return for the Big Finish audiobooks. I'm hoping I get a chance to meet him again in person for another panel, because we really only scratched the surface of who he is in this Conversation with Craig.
Chris.
Okay, I didn't know Chris.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Well, welcome to Utah. It was worth the 2-year wait for you. We're so happy you're here.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So, I know that Chris wants to talk to each and every one of you, or as many of you as possible, so I'm only going to ask one or two questions up front, and then we're going to get to our wonderful people here. So they're going to have a lot of Doctor Who questions, so I'm going to talk about the immediate and maybe imminent future. Okay. I'm super excited. You are playing Fagin in the new Dodger series.
Yeah.
That is an iconic role. We've got Alec Guinness, Ron Moody, Jonathan Pryce. How did you approach Fagin differently than those gentlemen?
I've got to say that I'm as excited about the series Dodger and the role of Fagin as I've been about anything in my career. The series was written and created by Rhys Thomas and Lucy Montgomery. We've made it for BBC and NBC, so we're hoping it's going to have a life in America. Obviously, the role is quite controversial. Charles Dickens understood that he'd made an anti-Semitic portrait, which is not acceptable now or at any time. He apparently wrote a character into one of his novels called Our Mutual Friend, which was a kind of an apology for Fagin. He wrote a Jewish character that was heroic. So, obviously, there's none of the anti-Semitism remains. He's a kind of a Robin Hood figure. He robs from the rich and gives to the poor. But he still has a slightly dodgy, no pun intended, moral compass. You're not exactly sure where he sits, how much he cares about the kids in his gang, how much he's exploiting them. He has a damaged side, not unlike the Ninth Doctor. Rhys Thomas, who part wrote and directed it and acts in it, is a fan of Doctor Who, and there's an influence there, I think. There's a possibility that Fagin has some superpowers, or at least great intuition. As to how I approached it, I just learned my lines and didn't bump into the furniture. It's there. I'm not very Stanislavski, I'm afraid.
Yeah. That's all right. The more Chris Eccleston we can get, the better.
Oh, thank you.
No, absolutely. The second question, then I'll move on to the folks, is that I had the fortunate pleasure of meeting you at Gallifrey 1, which is a Doctor Who thing in Los Angeles. It was like the last thing before...
That was on my 57th birthday.
Yeah, we sang happy birthday to you and all.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was a rumor going rampant through the con that you were going to be doing the Ninth Doctor. It wasn't official with Big Finish audiobooks. And then 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks, a very short period of time, you were announced and you've done those. How was it to get back into the leather jacket of audio version of the Doctor?
It was great. Unfortunately, it was done. I think I started in December 2020 in an industrial estate in North London, and I was alone. None of the other actors could come because of COVID. So it was fittingly lonely for the Ninth Doctor, fittingly isolated. It was just me and a sound engineer, and I was amazed at how quickly it all came back. The problem I had was my sound engineer. I drove him crazy because I'm quite a physical actor, and when you're doing audio dramas, you have to keep still, and he couldn't keep me still. Straight jacket. I'm resuming. We're going to do some more volumes of adventures, but instead of a leather jacket, I'm wearing a straight jacket.
How do you do all the running audio if it's audio? I know it's all running.
It's like that. Yeah, you have to do it all in the voice. All right.
Well, let's move on to the folks because they really want to see you. All I've been hearing is about how Chris is here.
Okay.
So remember, keep them short, keep them appropriate, and ask Chris away. Go right ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask what it was like being the first man to introduce a new generation to such an iconic character as the Doctor.
I don't think I understood at the time the reach that the show had. It's only now that I realize the reach that the show has. For instance, when I'm knocking about now, I get stopped by 25 and 26-year-olds who are 6 and 7 and 8. When the Ninth Doctor started in 2005, and that brings it home. At the time, I was so focused on doing the best job that I could, and I've always understood when I became an actor and I got a measure of celebrity, I've always blocked it out, because if you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about the job. So So that's my agent. So that's what I've always done. I've always blocked out the noise. But it brought me a huge amount of love, which, as I age, I'm very grateful for.
Okay, hi.
What happened to you?
I literally was walking on the sidewalk and I sprained my ankle. So I wish I was doing something exciting, but...
Dalek attack.
So I'm not going to tell you to run. Hello, Rose. Pleased to meet you. Limp.
I was wondering, was there any villain that was your favorite to work with as the Ninth Doctor? And were any of them particularly scary to, like, with all their makeup and the stuff like that?
Are you my mummy?
Oh.
Yeah. Please don't take that personally. I understood when we shot that, and Stephen Moffat wrote that, dreamt it up. I understood quite how terrifying that was. I think there's something about, because it is predominantly a children's show, about children being the nemesis, children being the threat. And I really understood one of the responsibilities of playing the role, which is, as terrified as you can appear as the Doctor, you have to have a glimmer of enjoyment. Because I felt like those children were so nightmarish, that we... the kids would be fine, but we'd lose all the adults. So that was for you. That was for the adults. The bravery was for the adults. The kids are fine. Definitely those. And I think the fear of the Daleks is in our DNA, isn't it? Certainly as a child growing up, not somebody who particularly watched the show, but I was aware that in British culture, and it seems in American culture, the Daleks, which are loosely based on... I know we're not supposed to speak about politics, but there's a line between the Daleks and the Nazis. I think it was Terry Nation, I might be wrong, who invented the Daleks. Is that right?
Someone over there is saying yes, so I'm going to agree with it. You're your agent.
That's my agent.
Yeah.
She agrees with me as long as she gets the 10%.
That's a good agent.
Yeah. 20%, sorry.
Whoa, that's...
So those, the Daleks, but most of all the kids. I loved that the children were the villains. I thought that was very clever on Moffat's part.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
To the microphone, come on. I was the same way before I came out on stage. Do not be upset. I was exactly the same.
So, my name's Erica, and I'm a really big fan. So my question is, what was the motivation of the personality of the Doctor, and what made you want to give the Doctor his unique personality?
It was a long time coming, that question, and it's the hardest I've been asked. I have said this before, so I apologize if I repeat myself, but I'd worked with Russell T Davies on a show called The Second Coming. I was intrigued by the fact that he wanted to go from that to Doctor Who. I felt I understood his writing, so I was running. I'm an avid runner. And I thought of the phrase Time Lord. And I thought, oh, he's falling through time. He's alone, as we all are, really. He's alone. I think that's one of the great appeals about the Doctor, is he travels alone, so we can all pour ourselves into him and be him. So I think the solitary nature, I felt I understood, and that was my hook in. I feel like he's always trying to distract himself from his loneliness, which could be true of us all. So that was key for me. I felt like he was lonely and looking for connection, particularly to a race, the human race, to which he doesn't belong. Does that answer that question? Yeah.
Thank you.
Rose and the Doctor are my favorite duo. What was it like working with Billy Piper?
Oh, no.
Well, the great thing Russell T Davies did was he feminized Doctor Who. I think it's fair to say that in the 21st century, what Russell and Billy did led to the greatest event in the Doctor Who universe, is that the Doctor being female. I think Billie Piper's one of the most extraordinary people I've met in the industry. She was a pop star at 15. She's now like one of our best stage actors. She's a director. She's directed a couple of films now. She's a writer. An extraordinary person. I remember her being very, very nervous and unaccustomed to filming, whereas I'd had about 20 years experience at that time. genuinely modest person, and hugely charismatic. I was very lucky that we had that chemistry. You know, I think Billy's just as responsible for the success of that series as I am, or Russell T Davies is. It was great. I recognize that jacket. So that's what happened to it.
I have the jacket.
Should we check the label on that to see if it's not yours? Yeah. Does it say Chris on
My agent, the leather jacket is... You want 10%? What do you want, a pocket?
Yeah.
The
I'm sorry.
lapel?
We'll keep backstage more secure next time. I'm sorry.
I got through. My question is, through all of your roles, at least most of them, movie, TV show, theater, you've been generally cast pretty a serious role.
Yeah.
The Doctor had his serious moments, but he also had a bit of a silly, fun, happy side. How is it kind of doing that different take on how you normally do your acting and have that silliness to the role?
I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because I'd definitely been identified as a miserable guy. And I think I wanted to change that. And I think I watched a couple of the episodes and I felt like I'd overplayed the goofiness, so I wanted to finesse that. But I enjoyed it, and since then, because of that, I did a show called The A Word in the UK, and I played a character called Morris, who was more comedic, and I've really enjoyed. I even got a couple of laughs when I was playing Macbeth. That was probably because I fell off the stage. Pretty broad comedy there. So I'm pretty cheap, actually. Give me a chance and I'll be really cheap.
I know that your kids, I listened to your autobiography, and your kids kind of watched a couple episodes and then they kind of...
Yeah, terrified them.
But have they tried to revisit that in the last...
No, they don't want to go back.
No.
I think their favourite doctor is Jodie Whittaker, and they just don't want to tell me.
Well, you can't blame them.
I think the thing for Albert and Esme is, apart from the show being frightening, I think it's their father who's under threat.
Right.
But also, and I do love this, they don't give a monkeys about me being an actor. When I was doing Fagin, I was forever practicing the accent. It's a Cockney accent. I bore them to death, you know. They don't like me being anybody other than Dad.
Well, that's good.
And I that's been very good for me, because acting was always my obsession, and now it's secondary to Albert and Esme. Really, it's the best thing I've ever done. And I love that about them. Esme saw me on the side of a bus once and went, "Oh, there's Daddy." You know, like it was the most normal thing in the world. They're not impressed in any way, which is the greatest gift I've ever been given.
My wife's out there doing the same thing right now.
They don't care.
Go ahead.
Hi. So your doctor has a very distinctive style that's darker and a little less silly than the others. There's no celery or bow ties.
I have bananas, though. I'll raise you my banana.
Well, was that something that you personally had influence on? And also, did you get to keep any of the costuming or props? Obviously, that guy got your leather jacket, but...
Yeah, that guy's got my jacket. There's quite a few people wandering around the convention with bananas, which belong to me. There's a bunch of you. Any more dad jokes?
Yeah. Dad jokes.
Any more dad jokes?
Got dad jokes. All day long, dad jokes.
Yeah. Yes, we have no bananas. I don't have any of the props. I do have a mini TARDIS from the press launch. When we had the press launch in Cardiff, on these tables there was a mini wooden TARDIS, and I nicked that. Which is how I got here, actually. No jet lag for me. What was the rest of the question?
Did you have influence on your costuming?
On my costume? Yeah. I did. I'm very loyal to writers, and I remember Russell T Davies wrote the Doctor's wearing a leather jacket. So because I'm loyal to writers, well, we need to find a leather jacket. And then I was not very focused on the costume, really. I didn't want the costume to get in the way of his heart and his soul and his brain. So it's pretty low key, isn't it?
Yeah, no vegetables on the collar.
No vegetables, no.
Scarves.
No scarves, no. I remember when I did an episode of Heroes, one of the producers said, and in this scene you're going to wear a scarf. And I went, and in this scene I'm not going to wear a scarf. Oh, well, you have to because you were the Doctor. I said, yeah, but I'm not the Doctor now, and I didn't wear a scarf then, and no. And this producer's like, an actor saying no to me? Why would you bring one character into another character? It's like...
Well, we have a fez for you backstage.
Oh! Well, does anybody know who Tommy Cooper is?
Tommy Cooper?
Tommy Cooper...
The director?
...is the greatest British comedian who ever lived.
Oh.
Please go home and research him, and next time Matt Smith comes here, ask him about Tommy Cooper and Tommy Cooper's fez. You heard it here first. Tommy Cooper.
Did your love of Rod Stewart and David Bowie influence the jacket? Because like I said, I listened to your autobiography, and I know that the 70s was your jam.
Yeah, I loved Rod. Pre the way he dressed around about early 1976 and before.
Right.
Bowie always, yeah. But I didn't think of them to. In fact, I went the other way from that glam thing. But yeah, that would have been a good idea. If I ever go back, I'm going to look like Rod in 76.
There you go. And David Bowie would have been a great Doctor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, so let's say you're minding your own business, going about your life, and the TARDIS shows up. Do you go with the Doctor? Where would you go, and, why not?
I would go to Salford, which is where I was born, and I would go... I'd go, first of all, my dad was born in 1929 in Salford, and my mum was born in 1932 in Salford. And I'd like to be there from about 1929 to about the early 1940s to see them as children, to see their innocence, and also to see their struggle, because they were both quite poor, and Salford was a tough place. And that's immediately 39 onwards. We were at war, and my mum stayed in... My dad was evacuated, but my mum stayed in Salford during the Blitz. So 39 to 45, which we dealt with in Doctor Who, the Second World War. I'd love to see those people who formed me and who I love so much as children, and what formed them. And Salford, which... I don't know if anybody knows the folk song Dirty Old Town by Ewan MacColl. It's about Salford, which was the heart of the Industrial Revolution in the UK, textiles. So I'd go there. And I'd also, the other place I'd go is I want to find out who William Shakespeare actually was. I have to say that at the moment I believe in the man from Stratford, and I want to know if that's true. So I'd go there.
And just a real plug, I strongly encourage that you get his autobiography, I Love the Bones of You. You read it, I listened to it. it's a unbelievable love letter to your parents, flaws and all, which is what I appreciate. You had difficult parents, but you also identified that you understood where it came from, and there was no judging.
I had no difficulty with my mum.
Well, of course.
And still don't. She's still around, Elsie. But my dad was a complicated fellow.
It was beautiful. I just want to
you.
know that
thank you.
thank you.
Because
the way you handle it is, like I said, there's not a lot of judgment. You really understand why he's that way.
Yeah.
And it's still very much, I love him versus, this is why I'm my way.
I think my dad would have been a really good actor. I don't think he was given anything like the opportunities I've been given. So everything I've done in a way is a little act of revenge for the class system in the UK keeping my mother and father down.
Sticking it to the man all the time.
Yeah.
Good. So, I love the bones of you. Audible, get it. Go ahead.
Hi, you look great, by the way.
Thank you. You do look great.
Surgery. The agent paid for it.
Good. Got to get that percentage back any way you can. So I know you haven't done as many conventions as some of the other Doctor Who portrayers have, and I was wondering if there was like a reluctance to do that, or if your schedule just didn't permit it.
There was a reluctance to do it. There was a reluctance to do it, based partly on my experience in the first series, and also I felt I might be exploiting you all. I still worry about that a little bit. Well, I may be old-fashioned. I wonder whether there's a more honest way to make a living as an actor. I have to. So it's very Salford, really. I thought, well, I'm an actor, so I act. I don't come here and I don't go out and be myself. That's what I thought. I felt like it was maybe slightly dishonest way to make money. What I've understood doing it is that you do, when you do a show, like when I did Macbeth, there is the stage door, and there are people there, for whatever reason, who have got your autograph 100 times and they want it 200 times. Sometimes it's to sell it, and other times it's just to obsessively collect it, which I understand. And I thought the convention arena would be like that, and it's not. What I've understood is that you as individuals want to say something very personal to me or Matt or Jodie or David or Peter. And I have to say it is such a positive experience. It was 23 hours door to door yesterday. I left London at 6:30 in the morning. I dropped Albert at school and Esme at school, and then I got to Heathrow and had a COVID test. Then I flew 7 hours to Boston, and then 6 hours to here. But I feel great because of the connection we feel.
So after such a long time since you portrayed the Doctor, and because of that reluctance, what made you go to Big Finish and take up that character again?
Money. Why does everybody work?
I'm sure you've been offered things before then, though.
I think the conventions helped. Feeling the love. But I work for money, and it's a very honest way for an actor to earn money. You're acting. But I was very careful about, I only did 13 episodes. They seem to have lasted. A lot of the doctors have done 3 and 4 and 5 series, but I did 1, and it's touched people. So Big Issue approached me a few times, and it was only when we got the scripts right that I would do it. And I have to say that Big Finish have captured the Doctor's voice, I think, really well. And that's no mean feat, because none of those writers have written for the TV show. So it's been a pleasure.
Hello there.
Hi.
My question is, what has been your favorite episode or episodes since you were the Doctor?
I've not seen any. Sorry.
That's fair. That's fair.
But my all-time favorite episode is, I've got to get the title right, The Empty Child.
Yes.
I watched that episode, which was broadcast before I was born. If I ever went back to Doctor Who, I'd want to do it in black and white. My first memory of Doctor Who is Patrick Troughton, black and white. That was the first Doctor, of course, The Empty Child. I think that is perfection, that episode. The black and white, the atmospherics of it, the appearance of the TARDIS in a junkyard. I think it's really significant, as I speak about it now, that the male and the female, and the importance of the female in the very first episode, and then really the female, in my opinion, got sidelined until Billy, and now Jodie, and I think that's significant what history was saying, the relationship there. I don't particularly like it when the Doctor gets romantically involved. I didn't like kissing... Well, I like kissing Billy, but... I never wanted it to be heterosexually, traditionally romantic. I don't think that's what it's about. It's about things far greater than that. And I think that's established in that episode. So definitely that episode. And that's another thing you owe me. That guy's got my jacket. You've got my Sonic.
So what was it like to come into Doctor Who and make the Doctor your own character? How did you build that to make it your own?
Well, one of the reasons I didn't watch it as a child is because to me, the Doctors sounded like English establishment authority figures, and I'm from Salford, and we don't like the English establishment.
We're not real fond of it ourselves.
We don't like authority figures. Sorry?
We're not real fond of it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So as a child on a council estate, what you would call a project, I think, I was like, I'm sick of them. I'm not interested. So my way in was, I thought a lot about a guy called Alan Turing. Does anybody know what Alan Turing is?
Yeah.
A Mancunian scientist who broke the Enigma code and was hugely responsible for our victory in the Second World War, who spoke with an accent like mine and was a genius scientist, but had my accent. So I thought about people like that. So that was my way in. It was kind of that, if you know what I mean.
I think we had the same experience here in America because they would show Doctor Who and then there'd be like Masterpiece Theater right afterwards.
Yeah.
And we were like, ugh.
Yeah.
So we want fun, but we didn't know. We didn't know.
Yeah. Blue collar, kind of.
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering, between your fictional and non-fictional characters, such as Doctor Who versus John Lennon, which was easier for you to get into character for?
Well, Tom Baker. Anybody know who Tom Baker is? He said that the Doctor isn't really an acting job. And I think there's something in that. You're kind of playing yourself. Whereas with John Lennon, everybody has a John Lennon. And there's so much footage of him. And he's so iconic. It was far more difficult playing John because there was a physicality to study, you know, the shoulders up here and that, and the voice, and, you know, the accent, the voice, the range of emotions, you know, that I had to go. So John was, and then of course when you're doing something like that, you're trying not just to do an impersonation. So that was a huge, and I'd lost all my confidence post Doctor Who with what went on and how it was handled. I lost my confidence, and I gained my confidence because it was the first time in 5 years I'd been offered a lead role in the UK, and it was John Lennon. And it was the first time I'd gone back and led a show and I was playing John Lennon. And while I was doing it, I regained my lost confidence. So, yeah. So I went in not as confident as when I went into Doctor Who. So Lennon, definitely.
What's your opinion on the Daleks?
Very low. You had to mention their name, didn't you? I think the interesting thing about the Daleks is that doesn't the Dalek say to the Doctor, because of the Doctor's cruelty to the Dalek, you'd make a good Dalek? That was a great piece of dialogue, I thought. And it was very interesting in that episode to explore his cruelty and his dark side. So they're kind of bound together, aren't they, the Doctor and the Dalek? They complement each other, and it's almost like his shadow. That was a very difficult question. Thank you.
You talked about regaining your confidence playing John Lennon.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about that. What was that journey like for you in regaining your confidence?
I didn't realize that in that 4 or 5 year period that it had gone until I was a couple of weeks into doing, it was called Lennon Naked, the thing that I did. And I thought, oh, I feel like I did before Doctor Who again. I felt more like myself. My lesson from it was, and I had another lesson 10 years later, maybe less. If you lose your confidence, but you're fortunate enough to regain it, you feel much stronger. I think it was a great thing to happen to me. And I feel the same way about, I had a severe clinical depression in 2015. And I always describe it as the best thing that ever happened to me that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I think on both occasions, the Doctor Who disaster and the depression, I really had to dig deep to find my reserves, and I really embrace feeling as vulnerable, particularly as I did with 2015. I think it's helped me be kinder. Apart from to my agent, who's over there.
And if she went from 20 to 10%, you'd be even kinder.
Yeah.
Out of playing Doctor Who and playing Malekith and Thor, which role was your favorite to play in and why?
Which role would I prefer to play?
Which one did you have more fun acting in?
Oh, the Doctor. I mean, Malekith, I was in makeup for 20 years. I'm actually 21. the aging process that I went through happened on Thor. Definitely. I mean, I had the best script on Doctor Who. And also, in Malekith, he wasn't written with any great complexity or humour, whereas the Doctor has all those things. And an actor is only as good as his writing. I had a great director on Thor, Alan Taylor, and a great leading man with Chris Hemsworth, but I didn't have the material. I had a lot of latex, but I didn't have the material. So, the Doctor. Also, the Doctor's a hero.
That's right.
And I tend to play bad guys, so once, it's like everybody lives. Once I'm being positive, It was nice.
So you mentioned you haven't really watched much of Doctor Who since you've played the part.
I never watched myself. I mean, when they showed that sizzle reel, I had my head in a bucket. I don't trust actors who like watching themselves.
But have you seen any of the other versions of like the TARDIS or the sonic screwdriver or any of the other monsters that you wish could have been your version?
The thing about being a Time Lord, right, is the only version of the TARDIS that is the real version of the TARDIS is my TARDIS. My TARDIS, my sonic screwdriver, my leather jacket. It's like David Tennant, Matt Smith turn up in a Ferrari TARDIS or a Porsche TARDIS. No, there's only one TARDIS.
So you played, I can't even remember your character on Agatha.
Neither can I.
On Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot.
Oh, I don't remember. He was a black shirt. He was a fascist.
What was your experience on that show?
Well, I think we broke him.
Now, that show was before the wheel was invented, wasn't it? Yeah. I actually saw a clip of myself in that and wondered how I ever got another job again after that performance. I remember, we're not supposed to speak about politics, I remember filming in a Freemasons hall in Covent Garden and thinking, I don't trust these bastards. Because the whole thing seemed designed to make me feel small. That's what I remember about that. That's about it, really. And playing a understanding that there was quite a serious element to it because the character was a fascist and a black shirt, an acolyte of Oswald Mosley, who tried to introduce fascism into the UK. Immediately pre-war, he was in league with Hitler and understood that a blue-collar young man could be embraced by nationalism and racism. We've probably seen a bit more of that recently. And then that funny little guy with a mustache. That's the other thing I remember.
We have time for one more question if it's a quickie.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I know. The pressure's on. Quick.
So I really enjoyed your book, and I know it was a little soul-bearing, but I was wondering if you've been bit by the bug, if you've considered writing more, whether it be autobiographical or fiction or even screenplays or anything like that.
I'm obsessed with the writing process. All I ever read, I'm reading a book at the moment called The Thirsty Muse. Anybody know that book? It's about the fact that a number of the great American authors, Scott Fitzgerald, William Faulkner, Hemingway, were all alcoholics. And it's about the influence of alcohol on their lives and their writing. I've never written anything in my life. Well, obviously, apart from the book. I'd like to write something about my mum, but I'm not sure that I'm going to regain the self-discipline.
Well, the first one was fantastic, and we're out of time, unfortunately. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Chris Eccleston.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening to Conversations with Craig. If you had a great time, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps the show grow. Share this episode with friends you'd think would love it too. For updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and more, follow Matinee Heroes on social media. Take care, and I'll see you next time.